Every single day in kitchens across America, someone opens the refrigerator, pulls out last night's chicken, and heats it back up without a second thought. It feels harmless. It feels efficient. It feels like exactly what a health-conscious person should be doing instead of wasting food. But here is something almost nobody tells you. The chicken sitting in your fridge right now is not the same food it was 24 hours ago. Chemically, biologically, it has already started to change. And what happens the moment you reheat it determines whether that change stays harmless or becomes something your body has to fight off. This is not about food poisoning in the way you're picturing it. This is not eat bad chicken, get an upset stomach, feel better tomorrow. This is about two separate processes, one fast and dangerous, one slow and cumulative, that both start the second cooked chicken goes from your stove to your fridge to your microwave. Stay with me, because the mistake at the center of this video is one that health-conscious families make more than anyone else. The people most likely to get this wrong are not the ones eating carelessly. They're the ones meal prepping chicken breast 5 nights a week because they're trying to eat clean. Let's start with the part that can put you in the hospital in hours, not years. Chicken is a protein-dense, moisture-rich food, which makes it one of the most hospitable environments on your kitchen counter for bacteria. 2 organisms matter most here: Staphylococcus aureus and Clostridium perfringens. Both can already be present on raw chicken in small amounts, and both survive the transition from raw to cooked in a specific way, not as live bacteria, but as spores or toxins. Here's the part that surprises people. Cooking chicken thoroughly kills the bacteria. It does not necessarily destroy the toxins some of those bacteria already produced, especially if the chicken sat out at room temperature for too long before it ever got refrigerated. The USDA's own guidance is blunt about this. Cooked food left between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit for more than 2 hours sits squarely inside what food safety scientists call the danger zone, the temperature range where bacterial populations can double in as little as 20 minutes. You can reheat that chicken to a rolling boil. You can microwave it until it's steaming. The heat kills the bacteria. But if toxins already formed, reheating does not neutralize them. Staphylococcus aureus in particular produces a heat-stable enterotoxin that survives normal reheating temperatures. You eat it, and within 1 to 6 hours your body reacts. Nausea, cramping, vomiting. It's fast, it's unpleasant, and for most healthy adults it resolves within a day. But for older adults, for anyone immunocompromised, for young children, that same exposure can escalate into dehydration serious enough to require a hospital visit. The fix here isn't complicated, but it is a habit most people don't have. Cooked chicken needs to go into the refrigerator within 2 hours of cooking. 1 hour if your kitchen is warmer than 90 degrees. Store it in shallow containers so it cools quickly all the way through, not just on the surface. And when you reheat it, bring it to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, checked with an actual thermometer, not a guess. That's the fast danger. Now let's talk about the slow one, the one that doesn't show up in 6 hours, but potentially over years. When chicken or any muscle meat is exposed to high heat, especially heat that browns or chars the surface, a chemical reaction occurs between creatine, naturally present in muscle tissue, amino acids, and sugars. This reaction produces a class of compounds called heterocyclic amines, or HCAs. This isn't a fringe theory. HCAs are among the most studied compounds in food chemistry, and the International Agency for Research on Cancer, the same body that evaluates substances like tobacco smoke and asbestos, classifies several individual HCA compounds as Group 2A or Group 2B, meaning probably or possibly carcinogenic to humans, based primarily on strong animal evidence and mechanistic data in human cells. The key variable is heat, specifically how hot, how long, and how many times. A single pass of normal cooking produces a baseline level of HCAs, but every additional high heat exposure, including a second and third reheating, especially in ways that rebrown or recrisp the surface, like a hot skillet or high-power microwave bursts, adds to that chemical load. Multiple observational studies, including large prospective cohorts tracking meat cooking habits over years, have found associations between frequent consumption of well-done or repeatedly high-heat cooked meat and increased colorectal cancer risk. It's important to say plainly, this is an association identified through population studies and biological mechanism, not a guarantee of individual harm, and researchers are still working out exact dose-response relationships in humans. But the mechanism is real, and it is not something the food industry or your own kitchen habits are volunteering to tell you. There's a second, quieter process happening alongside this. Every time you reheat protein that's already been cooked once, its fats undergo further oxidation. The result is a slow degradation in the food's nutritional quality, but more relevant to your long-term health, oxidized lipids are linked to low-grade inflammatory responses in the body. Inflammation, chronic and repeated, is one of the most consistent threads connecting diet to long-term disease risk, from cardiovascular problems to metabolic syndrome. None of this means chicken is dangerous. Chicken is one of the leanest, most complete protein sources available, and nothing here changes that. What it means is that how you store it, and how many times and how aggressively you reheat it, actually matters, and almost nobody has ever explained why. So here's what actually reduces your risk. In practical terms, you can use starting tonight. First, cool it fast, refrigerate it fast. 2 hours from stove to fridge, 1 hour in hot weather. Second, reheat once and reheat gently. Every additional reheat is another round of high heat chemical exposure. If you're meal prepping 5 days of chicken, consider portioning and freezing 4 of those 5 servings instead of keeping them all in the fridge to be reheated repeatedly over the week. Third, use lower, slower heat when you do reheat. A covered pan on medium-low or moderate oven rather than high-power microwave blasts or a screaming hot skillet that rechars the surface. You're aiming for 165 degrees Fahrenheit internally, not a blackened crust. Fourth, when you originally cook the chicken, avoid charring or blackening the surface in the first place. That initial high heat exposure is actually where the largest share of HCA formation happens, more than the reheating itself. Marinating meat before cooking, interestingly, has been shown in several studies to meaningfully reduce HCA formation, likely because certain marinade compounds interfere with the chemical reaction at the surface. And fifth, the simplest fix of all, cook only what you'll actually eat within a day or two, so reheating becomes the exception, not the daily routine. None of this is about fear. It's about the fact that 2 real, well-documented processes, fast bacterial toxin exposure and slow chemical accumulation from repeated high heat, are both happening in ordinary kitchens to ordinary, health-conscious people every single day without anyone explaining the mechanism or the fix. If this changed how you'll handle your next batch of leftovers, that's the entire point of this video. Tell me in the comments which part surprised you more, the bacterial toxin risk or the HCA exposure. And if there's a specific food you want broken down like this next, leave it below. I read every comment, and they genuinely shape what gets covered next. Share this with the person in your life who meal preps chicken every Sunday and reheats it all week. It's a 2-minute habit change that could matter over a lifetime. This video is for educational purposes and reflects current, publicly available food safety and nutrition science. It isn't personal medical advice. If you have specific health concerns, especially involving immune function or existing conditions, talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian.